Hello, my name is Justice Durham. I am currently the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court. I will be stepping down from the position of Chief shortly, but I'm grateful for this opportunity at the end of my leadership of the court and the court system to have a chance to talk to those of you who have volunteered to become mentors to the young people in our profession, to the new lawyers who are coming into practice. We're going to be talking, I think, on this film about two things. The first being why the mentoring program is so important. The second having to do with the logistics and the question of how mentoring should actually be undertaken. I would like to begin in addressing the why question by sharing my gratitude with each of you who has been willing to step forward and to say, I will give something of my unpaid, unbillable time to not only the improvement of the lives of new young professionals, but I am firmly convinced to the improvement of the quality of the practice of law in the state of Utah. Some of you may or may not know the history of this program. It came about in large part as increasing numbers of studies and observations of the profession began to suggest that there was a considerable disjunct between the kind of academic experience that students have in 3 years of law school and the actual nitty-gritty, if you will, of serving the needs of clients in the numerous settings in which we all find ourselves. And when you think about it, the law schools, although they have done a wonderful job in recent years of trying to improve the clinical skills of their students and providing clinical-related coursework to do that, in enhancing their legal writing programs, the law schools have really been quite attentive, I think, to the needs of young professionals to walk out of their doors and take up the professional burdens. However, it is simply not possible to share in a law school setting, and let's face it, the orientation of law schools is academic, and many law professors, although they have practice experience, have not devoted the bulk of their professional lives to those experiences. The place where you get that kind of hands-on training and experience is actually in the work of doing law or practicing law. My husband is a physician, and when he completed his medical training, he was required to engage for his specialty in 3 years of essentially clinically based training where he was supervised by more experienced physicians and where he in turn supervised less experienced physicians, but they were actually responsible for patient care, in his case in a hospital setting. And there is nothing that can substitute for that moment, certainly for a physician, when the phone rings and there's a question about a patient who requires critical attention. There's nothing to substitute for that in terms of teaching you how to take what you've learned in an academic setting and apply it to care. And I think that's a rough analogy. The practice of medicine is different, of course, from the practice of law, but there are similarities in that there is such a long list of actual skills, beginning, for example, in the case of a litigator with how to draft a complaint and how to get it filed and how to master the rules of civil and criminal procedure, not to mention the skills that are required in the transactional setting as compared to the litigation setting. So when the bar came to us at the court and suggested that the bar would like to do something to facilitate and ameliorate the quality of the transition from the academic experience to the actual practice of law, we were very interested. They did a great deal of research and were able to share with us what they found going on in other states. The state that was the farthest along at that time was the state of Georgia. We looked very closely at their mandatory mentoring program. We made adjustments. We made, I think, some improvements. The case today, I understand, is that our mentoring program is now being looked at by a number of other states who think that we've made considerable progress. So you are participating in something with a pretty long pedigree and with a good deal of research behind it. One of the big issues that we struggled with at the outset was the question of how we would staff such a program. Because obviously, if you want people to have supervision and advice in the context of practicing law, you need to go to practicing lawyers. And there was a very real question as to whether there would be enough skilled, enabled lawyers who were willing to invest their time in the future of the profession. To everyone's gratification, and certainly to ours on the Supreme Court, we have had a number of years of experience now which suggests that lawyers do see that responsibility and are willing to undertake it. One of the things I think, there's some research out there is indicating that increasing percentages of lawyers do not necessarily enjoy their lives in the law. My own experience, and it would seem to be borne out by the research, is that those who do enjoy their experience in the law are those who engage on a very personal level with the profession, who care about it as a profession, do not see it as simply a way to make a living, but understand that there's something that undergirds their commitment to the profession that has to do with the rule of law that we cherish in this nation, and with the idea that lawyers are not just officers of the courts, but are also guardians of the rule of law. I believe that with all my heart, actually. My husband and I have a running joke in that he's always had the excuse when he was unavailable that he was saving lives, which is a pretty good excuse. But I would come back with the riposte that when his professional forebears were treating people with cobwebs and leeches, mine were drafting the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. It didn't work so much on the ground, but it served to remind me on a regular basis of one of the dimensions of being a lawyer that I cherish and that I hope you cherish. And I'm hoping that in the course of your relationships with these new professionals, you will take the time to tell them your stories that explain why you care about the practice of law, that explain why you are willing to spend your time with them, that explain to them the multiple opportunities that they will have to serve not just individual clients and to participate not just in individual problems, projects, or pieces of litigation, but to engage with their role as the guardians of some things that are fundamental in the life of this nation. You will be, I think, surprised and gratified, and those of you who have done this in the past, I'm sure, have found yourselves surprised and gratified by the level of impact and influence that you will have. Now, occasionally, the particular pairings don't work out as well as they should, and I think the program has some backup systems for allowing people to try to get a better fit. But I have heard from so many young lawyers, I make a point when I am in the company of young lawyers these days to ask them what the mentoring program has meant to them. And I frankly I'm sure there are some people out there who haven't been thrilled with the experience. I haven't met them. The young lawyers that I have talked to tell me that it has provided them with a couple of things, one of which is the sense of a little bit of a safety net. They know that when they are in murky territory, particularly with an ethical problem, or when they're in need of practical direction and assistance, they've got someone they can call. I know when I first started practicing law, I found those kinds of mentors informally, for the most part. Sometimes I didn't find them at all, and that was a very difficult situation. You can feel pretty isolated when you have not the foggiest idea of what you're doing and there's nobody more knowledgeable than you to ask. So I'd like to conclude by reiterating my gratitude and that of our entire court for your willingness to participate in this program, reiterating the fact that I think it is part of something larger than ourselves in the professional sense, and finally suggesting that if you can do nothing more than that which many kindergarten teachers accomplish, I mean, people always say to me, kindergarten's worthless. I think it's a very important transition in a small child's life. It's when the child learns whether he or she loves school. Your experience with these new lawyers may be when they learn either that they are happy to be lawyers or that they can be happy to be lawyers, and that you've provided them with a blueprint to accomplish that. Thank you.